Good morning to you all. This is Mr. Rao. I welcome you all once again. An exciting session of biological science today. So in our previous session, as a part of the human health and diseases, we have been studying about some common human diseases. As a part of this concept, we have been studying as of now various types of diseases caused by the bacteria, virus, and thereafter the protozoans. And now, as a part of the protozoan diseases, in the previous class I explained detailedly about the malaria and the amoebiasis and the trypanosomiasis also. In today's session, I'd like to focus on one more protozoan disease, which is the last one in this area. And the disease name is actually known as a Kala-Azar, is the name of the disease, which is caused by a protozoan parasite. And it has got even another name, and the name of the disease is visceral leishmaniasis. The visceral leishmaniasis is another name for this disease. And the point is, it has got even the two other names too. And that names it includes, one is a black fever. So this is actually assigned the name. Reason for that is, whenever the person is suffering from that and his skin becomes dark, that is the reason why we call it as here black fever. And even in Hindi term, Kala means black, here Azar. So that is the reason why we call this disease as black fever. And another name for the disease is dum-dum fever. Dum-dum fever. So these are all actually the names of the disease, that is Kala-Azar. Now let us see now the constitutive organism for this disease. So it is a protozoan parasite, as I said in the beginning, and the name of the protozoan parasite is Leishmania donovani, is the scientific name of this parasite. The parasite name is Leishmania donovani, and in this you can see here Leishmania is a genus name, whereas the donovani is the species name. Now I do like to give you the structure of this Leishmania donovani in a detailed way, right? And when you see its structure, actually it is having a elongated body with a wavy here outer surface, and the outer surface is covered by a thin flexible membrane, which we call it as pellicle. Whereas the internal portion of this parasite is covered by the cytoplasm. You can see the cytoplasm internally. This is the cytoplasm of the parasite. At its center, you can happen to see a red color spot or the nucleus. The nucleus is present along with a nucleolus, and this is what the nucleus. Whereas at its extreme anterior end, you can happen to see one long hair-like flagellum is present. The flagellum, this structure is. And the thing is, this flagellum is not extended all along with its here body length, just like the earlier that we studied, right? So it is stopped here only, and that too it is the free flagellum. The free flagellum it is. There in the earlier session, there we studied Trypanosoma gambiense. In that case, the flagellum is extended along with its body, and it forms a wave-like structure. But in this case, such a kind of extension of the flagellum from anterior to the posterior end is not present. So that is one thing, right? Whereas when you see at its bottom, you can see here it is extended within the body. The portion of the flagellum that extended within the body is known as axonema. Axonema. At the base of this one, you can see here the dot, a dot like structure that you can happen to see this one. This is called basal body. This particular structure is called basal body. Whereas just posterior to the basal body, there you can see a specialized here structure is present. One more structure. This is known as kinetoplast. Kinetoplast structure is also present. Right? So this is actually the structure of Leishmania donovani. It is one form. It is even available to us even in another form also. The another form of this one is present like this. It is oval in the shape, and at its center it has got the nucleus, and at the anterior end you can happen to see the kinetoplast, and whereas at its base you can happen to see this basal body, and from which actually axonema it arises. But the point is it doesn't have the flagellum. It's an important thing. So these are all the structures here. This is the basal body. Then this structure is axonema. And this you can see the nucleus with the nucleolus. Right, whereas this part is the kinetoplast, right? So these are the two forms of this Leishmania donovani, a protozoan parasite, right? And now I'd like to here explain in detail the information related to this one, how it is get transmitted, what is the vector for this, and what about here the incubation period and different kind of host. About all of them, let us see now. Is it clear? Better you have the snapshot so that I can rough it and I can go further, right? And coming to here, this actually the parasite is get transmitted from the infected person to the healthy one by a insect vector. The insect vector name in general used to call it as the sand fly. The sand fly is the insect vector, very important bit for the medical entrance examination. And the scientific name of the sand fly is known as Phlebotomus argentipus is the scientific name of the sandfly, which act like an intermediate vector. So I repeat once again for you, Phlebotomus argentipus is the name of or the scientific name of sandfly. So when you see here, it has got various types of hosts even. The primary host of this parasite is nothing but the human beings. And you know very well the primary host means the host in which actually the sexual phase of the life cycle of the parasite it completes, then that particular host is known as the primary host. Whereas the secondary host of this one, as I said just now here, is a sandfly. Sandfly is the secondary host, that is Phlebotomus argentipus. So that means this is a one in which actually the asexual phase of this parasite it completes in this actually the organism. Whereas the reservoir host is also there. The dogs are actually the reservoir host for this. The dogs, reservoirs. That means this parasite is present in a dog, but it never affects the dog. But the dogs are involving in spreading of the disease. That is the reason why the dogs are actually known as the reservoir host. Point clear? So the primary host is a human being. The secondary host is the sandfly or Phlebotomus argentipus. And thereafter the reservoir host in this case is actually the dog. Whereas when you see the incubation period of this one, that you know very well, the incubation period is nothing but the time period that present in between here infection and manifestation. So it takes near about 3 to 6 months span of time. So after 3 months at any time till the 6 months time, it may exhibit here the characteristic features of the disease, or else it causes the manifestation of a disease. But interesting point related to this, in some of the cases, even after here 2 years, the symptoms are not visible to us. So it takes some time, more than 2 years for appearance of a symptoms. This is an important point. Generally, within a 3 to 6 months span of time, the manifestation it occurs. But in particular cases, in some of the cases, for appearance of the symptoms, it may take even the 2 years span of time. This is an interesting and important point. And next to this, then where does this infection it occurs in our body? Particularly when the parasite infects the human beings, then the endothelial cells of the human beings are get affected. And meanwhile, along with the endothelial cells, the leukocytes of the human beings also get infected by this parasite. Right? The leukocytes that you know very well, they are nothing but here the white blood cells. Leukocytes as well as endothelial cells of our body will be get affected because of this pathogen. And next to this, you can see the bone marrow of the human beings will be get affected, and that followed by the liver is one more important thing, get infected by this parasite. And particularly here, your lymph vessels and blood vessels or lymph glands as well as the blood vessels of your spleen actually get infected because of this. This is another important point. See this. Lymph glands present in our body, and thereafter the blood vessels that are all present in the spleen. It is an important gland present in our actually the abdomen of the human body, just above your stomach. You can happen to see this. So such a gland will be get affected, right? So these are all the body organs in your body will be get affected because of this infection or this parasite. I repeat once again, the endothelial cells, leukocytes, as well as the bone marrow, your liver, and along with that, the lymph glands in your body and blood vessels of the spleen will be get infected because of this one. So these are all the infective parts. Thereafter, how it causes here the disease, or what are the symptoms of the disease, we will see now. Then the important thing is, the first and foremost, the symptom of the disease, actually it continuous fever. The person who get infected because of this parasite will get the fever continuously, is one important here the characteristic feature of this disease. That followed by here loss of body weight. They do lose the body weight greatly, and emaciation is one more important characteristic feature. Then the emaciation, it means here the body become very lean. Here the size of the body decreases and the body becomes very lean, and that condition is actually known as emaciation. And next one here, the body weight of a person will greatly loss. That is one more important thing. And next to this we can see the anemia, declining the blood content in our body will be greatly decreases. Right, that is one thing. So that condition is known as anemia. Next to this, enlargement of spleen and liver. Just now I explained what are the organs that get infected or affected by this parasite. Just now I said that the spleen is an organ in your body get affected, and even your liver also. So because of infection of this parasite to your liver as well as the spleen, the enlargement of these two glands will be taken place. Right? So that is one more important thing. And thereafter, a peculiar darkening of the skin. This is an important part. So particularly the person here skin will become dark. So darkening of the skin will be taken place, so that we do consider this disease as kala, means black, azar, or else we call it as black fever also. Because of this particular symptom, we do give the name to this disease as the black fever or the kala azar. And next to this, when you see in the advanced stage, hair of a person become brittle. Brittle in the sense, generally our hair is a thin as well as the flexible. But in the severe condition, the hair of an infected person will become hard and rigid, and that followed by the fall off. Here the hail fall off or it falls out. This is the thing it takes place. And next to this you can see the body immunity system becomes very weak. That is an important thing. You know very well about the immunity system. It is a inbuilt body defense mechanism. In our day-to-day life, here hundreds of the disease-causing pathogens, they enter in our body, but we do not fall sick all the days and all the time. The reason for that, you do have got a specialized immunity system in your body which always fight against the disease-causing pathogens and destroys them, and finally that protects us. But whenever you infect with this parasite, the immunity system will be greatly get affected. Once the immunity system becomes weak, then the defense mechanism will be here declines. So that what happens? Then whatever the pathogen it enter in our body, it multiply very easily and it can again here causes disease in us. So finally it leads to secondary infections in our body, right? What do we call that? Secondary infections in our body, and these secondary infections are caused by two different types of here pathogens. One is bacteria, whereas the second one is virus. So whatever the bacteria and whatever the viruses they do enter in our body, they can easily multiply and cause the respective diseases in our body. It finally leads to secondary infection, and in the severe cases it leads to death. The death of the person will be taken place, right? So these are all about the symptoms of a disease, right? Then how do we prevent this disease? Then what is the treatment for the disease? Let us see now here in a detailed way. When you see this one, actually the prevention, as you know that here this is technically known as a prophylaxis. Then how do you can prevent this disease? You know the mode of transmission, right? The method of infection. Here I said here the sandfly is actually act like a vector and it get transferred the disease from one person to the another person. The one and only thing, if you can kill the sandflies and if you can reduce the population of the sandflies, generally we can here protect ourselves from the infection of this disease. So that is one important prophylaxis method that you can see. The vector sandfly must be here get eradicated, one thing. Thereafter I said the dogs, they do act like a reservoir host. So that if you can even destroy the reservoir hosts like dogs, even that helps for the prevention of the disease, right? These two are actually the ways how can you prevent the disease, clear, right? And next to this, when you see avoiding yourself or here avoiding or protecting yourself from the bites of the sandfly, right? So this is one thing. Whenever the sandfly comes and bites, then it releases this pathogen into your body generally, and it actually causes the infections. So when you protect yourself from the bites of this sandfly by using the different method, like using the mosquito nets and thereafter here using the repellents on your body, then generally it helps you to protect yourself from this, so that actually leads to prevention of the disease, right? So even after you follow all these preventions regularly, but unfortunately sometimes you may get a disease. When you get a disease because of here this parasite, then what is a treatment for that? In this case, we have to take particular medicine for this. The medicine for this is sodium antimony tetrate. Is a drug that we are all using for treating the disease. Yes, Kushal, is there any problem? Right, I'll get you back to you, right? The sodium antimony tetrate, actually a drug that is used in order to treat the disease, that is Kala Azar. Whereas the second one is glyconate, is another drug that you can see here. The glyconate is a drug that can be used for treating this one. Along with that, you can see urea stibamine is one more drug can be used. And along with that, aminostiburia is another drug can be used. And thereafter, see this last one, that is neostibosum, right? Neostibosum is another drug. So by making use of these different kind of drugs by the prescription of the medical practitioner, so whenever you use it regularly, it is easy to us to cure the disease and can successfully treat the disease. This is all about here the Kala Azar or visceral leishmaniasis or black fever or dum-dum fever, which is a protozoan actually the fever. And this is actually, with this we do complete here all the protozoan diseases. Now I'd like to switch over to the one more type of disease that is actually caused by helminthic parasites, right? Right, this is actually the another area in the common human diseases. Now, as of now, we studied about the disease caused by the bacteria, virus, as well as the protozoans. Now, it is a turn to discuss about the diseases caused by helminthic parasites. There in the animal kingdom, when you study about the classification of animals, there we studied about different types of phyla. Among them, helminthic, here the parasites also there, helminthic, the phylum is also there. These are all of two different types, Platyhelminthes and Nematyhelminthes. Now I am going to focus on the diseases caused by Nematyhelminthes. And this Nematyhelminthes actually otherwise known as nematodes, or else in general we used to call them as roundworms also. So the diseases that caused by nematodes or Nematyhelminthes, which we call it as the roundworms. Clear? Right, some of the diseases, let us see now. One of the best example for these Nematyhelminthic diseases or roundworm diseases, nothing but here the filariasis or the elephantiasis. This is one important disease. Right, let us see here the elephantiasis. Why the name the elephantiasis is assigned to this? So whenever the person infected by this parasite and suffer from this disease, then his limbs, particularly the lower limbs in the sense the two legs and even the upper limbs means the two hands, limbs will be greatly get affected. Then the shape of the limb, when you happen to see, it resembles to the leg of a elephant. So that is the reason why this disease name is assigned as the elephantiasis. One basic reason for assigning the name to this disease. Whereas the second one is the filariasis. Why the name this is assigned to it? Actually it is caused by the filarial worm. And the worm that causes the disease is Wuchereria. The Wuchereria in general used to call as the filarial worms. So that this disease is caused by the filarial worms, hence the name is assigned to that as the filariasis. Is the point clear? Right. The causative organism, just now I said, here what is the pathogen that cause this disease elephantiasis? That is actually Wuchereria is the scientific name of that parasite, that is a nematode, which in general we used to call it as the filarial worm, so that the name is assigned to that. Clear? Right. And when you see here the systematic arrangement of this filarial worm, and before that what are the species that causes this elephantiasis? Thing is, just like malaria, the malaria is caused by the 3 varieties of species of Plasmodium. In the same way, this elephantiasis is also caused by 2 different species of this Wuchereria. Actually, the Wuchereria is the genus name, and it has got the 2 different species. The 2 species it includes Wuchereria bancrofti is one important species, whereas the second one is the Wuchereria malayi. These are the 2 varieties of the species that causes this disease generally. So important thing, Wuchereria bancrofti as well as Wuchereria malayi. Both of them are helminthic parasite that you know very well. Then the systematic arrangement. So what is the classification of these 2 parasites? When you see here the phylum of this one, it includes or it belongs to the Nematoda. Just now I said that the phylum is Nematoda or Nematyhelminthes. Whereas the class it belongs to the Plasmidae is actually the class of this one. And coming to this one, when you see the genus name and the species name, you can easily guess with the help of its scientific name. The genus name of this one is the Wuchereria, whereas the species, there are 2 species that causes this disease. One is the bancrofti, the another one is the malayi. So this is actually the systematic arrangement. And see this we can clearly, phylum is Nematoda, whereas the class is Plasmidia, thereof genus is Wuchereria, and the species name is bancrofti or the malayi. Clear? Right, we will see more detailed information regarding this one. Some here common information, general information regarding this Wuchereria parasite. Coming to this one, this Wuchereria is actually known as filarial worm. I said already the point and repeating again for you. And thereafter, when you see, it is a digenetic parasite and a dimorphic parasite. Then what does that digenetic parasite in the sense? Digenetic in the sense, a parasite which completes its life cycle in two different hosts is actually known as a digenetic parasite. And here the Wuchereria is also a digenetic parasite. It completes its life cycle in two different hosts. The primary host, as I said just now, in this case is man. That means the sexual cycle of its life cycle is carried out within the human being. Whereas the secondary host of this parasite, just now as I said, is a sandfly. So that is the reason why we do consider it as a digenetic parasite. Whereas if you see, the second point is it is a dimorphic parasite. What does that mean then? Morpha means form or a shape. It has got two different shapes in the sense the male is different from the female. So we can identify the male from a female separately by studying its external features. So the sexual dimorphism is distinct in this organism. You can identify the male worm from a female clearly. So it is a dimorphic parasite. Is the point clear? Right. Coming to the next one, it is actually pseudocoelomate and as well as histozoic parasite. Then here this parasite is actually pseudocoelomate. What does that mean? In the animal kingdom itself, there we studied about acoelomates, pseudocoelomates and coelomates. And here the pseudo means false, not true. Coelom, actually the cavity or the spacious place. But the point here it is, at the embryonic stage of the organism, if the coelom is not developed from the mesoderm, then such a kind of coeloms are known as pseudocoelomates. Coming to this, Wuchereria is a pseudocoelomate. It has got a coelom which is not true. That means it is not formed by mesodermal layer at its embryonic developmental stage. So that we consider this part. Whereas the next one is histozoic parasite. Here my question to you again, what does the histo means or histology? There are different branches of biology here under which you can study about cytology, histology, embryology, like that. The histology is a branch of biology. Here it study about all the tissues of the plants and animals. And here my point here is histo. I would like to give you the meaning of the word histo. Histos means tissues, and zoic parasite. Here it means this is a parasite which is present in between the cells of a tissues. That is actually the point. It present in between the cells of tissues is one thing. Particularly the lymphatic tissue it lives. So this is a parasite actually lives in a lymph vessels in the human body. So the location of the human body where does this parasite is present is actually here the lymph vessels. Lymphatic vessels it is actually present. So that is one important thing. And next when you see here, this actually discover first here the secondary host, just now I said that is nothing but here sandfly, and that is actually not sandfly here, sorry, it is a female Culex mosquito, right? That is one thing, and that is actually it's a secondary host, and that secondary host it was discovered by Sir Patrick Manson. See this point, Sir Patrick Manson is the name of a scientist who discovered first as the Culex female mosquito is the secondary host to this. Secondary host to this, which is that the Culex female mosquito is one. It was discovered by a patron, Sir Patrick Manson is the name of the person. Right. Let us see here more detailedly the female as well as the male worms in a detailed way. And when you see here the structure of this parasite, As I said here, sexual dimorphism is distinct in these organisms. That means the male is different from the female. You can identify the male worm from the female in a detailed way. When you see the male worm, it is a very important and characteristic feature of the male. The posterior end is curved. It's a very important thing. The posterior end, when you happen to see, is curved, is one thing. And even its anterior end is blunt, and the anterior end, it doesn't have any lips also, but it has got a mouth. The mouth is not covered by the lips. This is what the structure. And when you see here, the body is actually, it's a long elongated body, narrow in its here the body structure, whereas a filiform, and as well as here creamy white in its color. This is the characteristic feature of these external body features. See this one is the body is long and the body is narrow, and here it is a filiform. This is a new term that come across. The filiform, in the sense it is a thread-like structure. Just like how the thread is present, it's a long here, narrow and flexible. In such a way the body is present. So it is a filiform. The color of this one is creamy whitey in its color, right? So that is one thing. And next one here, when you see the anterior end is blunt, and it has got the mouth, and mouth has no lips, right? That is an important characteristic feature. And thereafter the posterior end is curved, posterior end is pointed in both the male and female, right? And that you can see all these points. And coming to the male, as I said just now here, the male worm, and the male worm, the posterior end is a curved one. This is one thing, and here it has got a hole or opening. At its posterior end, you can see the hole or the opening, which is known as a cloacal aperture. This is what? Cloacal aperture. Is one thing. The another interesting characteristic feature of the male, at this cloacal aperture, a chitinous, unequal here, pineal spicules are present. Both two are present here. See this, when you see these two are not equal in the size, unequal, and they are made up of chitinous material, and here they are present in this area, and these are known as pineal spicules or copulatory here spicules. Important point it is. Pineal spicules or copulatory spicules, and these two are present at a cloacal aperture region. This is what the pineal spicule, and the exact location of this one, they are present at the cloacal aperture region. Clear? Right. Coming to the female worm. The female worm, when you see, it also has got the same shape. So anterior blunt end, but the point here it is a very long coiled, but the point is its a posterior end is straight. It's a very important point, and this is the characteristic feature which distinguishes the male from the female. Clear? The posterior end is straight, and whereas this posterior end is curved in case of male. But in case of female, the posterior end is straight, and at its anterior end you can happen to see the head with a blunt here shape, and whereas it has got a mouth, and the mouth is not covered with any lips. Okay, and when you see at its extreme anterior, the posterior end, there you can happen to see the anus. Then opening is present. This is what we call as the anus. Anus here. Whereas from its mouth, almost all 1/3 of its length, there you can see the another opening on its body. This is known as vulva or female genital pore. It is another important point. So the posterior end is straight, as I said. Thereafter, anus is present near the posterior end is another point, and here there you can see a female genital pore or vulva is present. What is the location of this vulva? And this vulva is present at about 1/3 of its length from the mouth. It is exactly located. So 1/3 of its length from the mouth, this vulva is present, right? This is what? This is a peculiar characteristic feature of the female when you compare with a male. Clear? So this is one thing, and this is actually present mid-ventrally. Here this is a ventral side, and that too at the middle of the ventral side this hole or opening is present. So this is all about actually the morphology of the male and female Wuchereria bancrofti, such a kind of here the worms. So I repeat once again for you, at its posterior end, the curved, in case of male, it's an important characteristic feature. At its end, you can see the cloacal aperture. There you can see here two chitinous unequal here. Pineal spicules or copulatory here spicules are present. Whereas when you see here the female, at its anterior end the mouth is present, and at its extreme posterior end the anus is present, but the posterior end is straight but not curved. Then at about 1/3 of its length from the mouth, it has got another opening which we call it as here vulva or female genital aperture. This is what here the male and female worms, right? So in the coming session, coming part, how this is get transmitted, what are the symptoms for this, the life cycle of this entire parasite, thereafter the prophylaxis for this disease, and even the treatment for the disease. About all of them we will study in the coming session in detailed way, right? Now the mathematics session is about to start. Just be online and take here a few minutes break, and the Vasu sir is about to engage the class, right? Thank you all. Have a nice day.